Alice Petrovelli said yesterday, Attu is a very mystical place, and you can feel it. Went out there and I could hear the wind whispering and the voices saying to me, and they were soldier voices at that point in time, saying, please, tell our story. Don't let us be forgotten. As you heard yesterday, nobody knows about the Aleutian campaign. So that's something we need to fix. Suddenly the wind shifted and different voices came. And they said, don't let our story be forgotten either. You tell our story. You show and make sure that we are remembered. When I got back from Attu, I went to the Alaska Veterans Museum Board that I'm privileged to be the executive director and president of. I went to them and I said, okay, here is the mission. The mission is we need to replace that. We need to make it permanent. Enter the Coast Guard because we had tried to get the Air Force to take us out, and we've been working with Rachel and Fish and Wildlife to try and get all of this out there for the 70th anniversary. Well, that didn't quite work. The Air Force changed their mission. They only took smaller planes out there now. This was not mission essential, so therefore we got closed out. We went to the National Guard. The National Guard also closed us out. Enter the Coasties again. Yay, Coasties. So we went to them. Well, through the efforts of Senator Murkowski's office and Rear Admiral Thomas Ostabo, the commander of the 17th District U.S. Coast Guard, we got her done.
We're here today to dedicate this permanent memorial to honor the sacrifice of the Attu villagers on the 70th anniversary of Attu being invaded by the Japanese troops.
We are here today to dedicate this permanent memorial to honor the sacrifice of the Attu villagers on the 70th anniversary of Attu being invaded by Japanese troops. The villagers, the only North Americans forcibly removed from their homes, were taken as prisoners to prison camps in Japan for the duration of the war. This memorial was conceived by the Alaska Veterans Museum and funded by a partnership of that museum, the Aleutian and Pribilof Island Trust, the Anchorage International Rotary Club, the Aleut Corporation, Legacy Funeral Homes, and Mr. Alfred Keel. Attu Chief Mike Hodikoff had warned the United States government that the Japanese, who had been mapping and charting the Aleutians for years, would invade. And on Sunday, June the 7th, 1942, they did so. As the villagers returned from church, the hills came alive with Japanese troops, sliding down the steep snow-covered mountains and firing their weapons. The radio operator, C. Foster Jones, smashed the radio so as to alert Dutch Harbor that they were off the grid, and was killed shortly after the Japanese seized the village. He was buried at the corner of the village church, then later reinterred at Fort Richardson National Cemetery. The villagers were kept at the village in their homes until September, when they were herded into the hold of a coal freighter and taken to internment camps in Japan. The white school teacher, Etta Jones, was taken to Yokohama to prison while the rest of the villagers went to a prison camp near Otaru, Hokkaido, Japan. Almost half would die in captivity, and none of the villagers would see Attu village again. For upon repatriation, they were relocated to Akka, as there were not enough of them to sustain a village. We commemorate their sacrifice and honor their memories. They shall not be forgotten. And I would like to tell this group how very honored and privileged I was to lead the effort to get this job done so that these members are not forgotten. The night that we got the message that the memorial is up and we are landing at 5:30 tonight at J-Bear was a very, very emotional moment. And it was one where finally the job was done, and finally they were recognized. And as I readied myself for bed that night, you know, once again that feeling came back to me. And that Attu wind came back to me. And it was the villagers. And they were saying, thank you. Now we are happy.
It's an amazing thing that they took the time to remember 42 villagers that were taken off the island of Attu. They were taken, and it's greatly affected my life. My mother died when I was 9 years old, and I wish she could have been here to see this historical occasion.